Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzalez, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
When I first started my business, I gave all of my time away for free. That was about 8 years ago.
And that was in hopes that it would translate into business.
Yes, and things have changed to such a point where I do charge money for my time. And we felt like this would be a good podcast to publish and talk about because every entrepreneur is on a similar journey, going from zero to building something great. And along the way, you have to make many decisions about what you will do for free versus what you'll charge for, and even how much you will charge for those things.
And it really does depend on the industry that you're in. Ours can be very much a knowledge kind of thing. We're going to help educate our clients, help them understand the value of what we do, and then bring them in, and they're going to pay us to really get them these great results. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that takes some education and some getting past the fear of getting burnt previously by their previous providers. Yeah. So that's our industry, but yours might be a little bit different. But I think that there's a message here that everybody can get something from.
Yeah, and we're going to kill a sacred cow today. And I think that one is people have said a lot that you should give away your time and your expertise for free. And I agree with that to an extent.
Sure.
And I think that what we share today will help give context to why I feel that way, and I feel different than some of the stuff that's being shared now. I've come full circle.
Sure.
Full circle all the way around. And I don't think we're going back.
No.
So like Rachel said, it depends on your industry. And this is where you have an opportunity listening to this. You might decide to start turning things on its head.
Sure.
Based off of what we're doing. Because we're also doing something that I think the majority of folks in our industry are not doing.
Yeah, correct.
All right.
Well, a lot of the people that we have spoken to are a little bit shocked by the fact that we charge. They're like, wait, I can get this for free. Well, yes, you can, but can you really? Can you actually get what we offer you for this paid fee for free? Probably not. Because they really don't know what it is, but they are misinformed and they have dealt with maybe lower level practitioners in our field. That's
right. So we're going to take you through 4 different phases that we've experienced at our business, Digital Harvest. The first in what changed, and there's half of this is where we were giving stuff away for free. The other half is charging different amounts. We're going to walk through all of this. The first part, Rachel wasn't actually here for. She wasn't a part of my life yet. And that was when I started Digital Harvest. It was under a different name. I was living in Boulder, Colorado. And when I started the business of providing search engine optimization services to small businesses, what I did was gave everybody my time for free. I was super hungry to grow the business because it was starting from zero. Anybody who was mildly interested in our services and what we have to offer, I had to do some kind of an audit, a review.
Sure.
In order for them to both see that I was credible and I knew what I was talking about, build that trust, and then know that there was a plan in place to help them get to where they wanted to go.
Right.
And that was the function of the audit as part of the sales process. And so what I didn't know when I first started doing this was how much time would go into those. I would spend about 2 to 3 hours on them. And then on the other side of it, I would sit down, have a conversation with the business owner, and about 1 out of 5 of those would close.
Yeah.
Which is pretty low.
Sure.
So when you're spending 10 to 15 hours to get the business and then you get one of them, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on your price point too. That's a lot of, if you think about just the cost of acquisition.
Yes.
In that sense, it's actually pretty high and probably not even break even at that point.
Yeah. Right.
So all I had to be considered.
All I had at the time was sweat equity to put in. Right. And so when it came to delivering the work, this is where things started to change. So when it was just me and a virtual assistant, I could do all the sales and I could do a lot of the fulfillment with me and the virtual assistant. But at a certain point, it was like, well, now I'm having to choose between
Right.
working on the sales or working in the business. Both are actually in the business.
Sure.
And it's like, well, I don't really have all of this time to do all these free audits.
Right.
But what else am I supposed to do? This is kind of the industry standard.
Sure.
But I did make an adjustment. And that's where our second phase began. And so I did all this free stuff for like the first 2 years. I also learned a lot about the business at that time. So it was good that I had so many opportunities to run these audits, do them different ways, learn a great process that people liked.
Yeah.
But then what changed? It's like, well, I wasn't comfortable yet charging for my time. So what I did is I put some friction. I put a little bit of a hurdle in the way of somebody getting my free audit.
Sure.
So I created this questionnaire that would take people at least 20 to 30 minutes to fill out.
About their business.
About their
and
business.
Things so that you could come in educated. Sure. Okay.
And more than just like, oh, I talked to you on the phone and you were interested, I made them go put in some additional effort. So I pre-screened them on the phone. And then I said, well, I can do this audit for you. This will help us figure out this and this. But I'm going to need some more information, and so will my team. Fill this out. It should take you 20 to 30 minutes. My friends, I cannot tell you how many people never went to go fill the thing out.
Yes.
Okay. And then when I would bug people and follow up with them and say, hey, did you fill it out? Guess what I would get back? I would get back really short answers.
Mhm.
And then guess where the sale went? Nowhere. They weren't that interested.
Well, what that did for you was it made it so you weren't spending the time, so you could actually screen them, like literally screen them from the process of you doing that audit for them prior to actually putting in that time. The only time that you then were spending was the phone call, maybe the reminders, and then that was it.
Well, I found out that I would stop doing the reminders because if I had to remind them to go fill the thing out, they weren't that interested
Sure.
in having the work done.
Sure.
So some could look at this and be like, well, that's a broken process. And I would say, well, I just didn't have the time and the bandwidth to do all of them and filter them a different way. This was the filter method that I chose to protect my time.
Sure. And what did you find was your close rate on those?
Well, the close rate did go up. So instead of closing 1 out of 5, I was closing more like 2 out of 5.
Okay.
So it doubled. And that was a
Great.
huge win. And I could tell
And
based
less
off
time.
of, and way less time. I could tell based off the answers that came through. Basically, the more that people wrote in that questionnaire, the more invested they were. So I learned
that's
really
great.
quickly when they came through and they had really deeply thought out answers, those were the most likely to close on the other side of the audit, so long as I found things that were worthwhile and decided like this is the best way for you to
Yeah, if
grow.
this was the best, if you recommended that they work with you, then most likely they would at that point.
Yeah, because it
That's great.
happens sometimes somebody comes through the process and it's like, well, actually this isn't the best fit. And you give some other recommendations. So it saved me a ton of time. We rolled with it that way for about 3 years. And this overlaps into when Rachel and I finally met.
Yeah.
So when Rachel and I met, I had been doing this already for like 4 years as the agency. And then Rachel came into the business. And it was soon after that that we started charging for that audit.
Yep.
And the reason that we charged for the audit was time.
Absolutely.
Again,
Well, it's also another way of filtering. You know, some people value their money more than they do their time. Some people are like, oh, if this is free and all I have to do is fill out this form, then I'm going to go for it. So it did filter out different kinds of people that were willing to pay versus people that were,
tire kickers.
yeah, exactly, that were just looking for something free, that they were kind of interested, but not really there.
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of people that were happy to get an audit just to find out the price.
Yes, exactly.
And in our business, at least at the time, everything was custom priced.
Sure.
So I had to do the audit to find out what we were going to price it at.
Right, because some people need this as opposed to that, or, you know, it was kind of a try to work with their budget. At that point, we were kind of looking at lower level pricing so that we could do something for them, and then maybe graduate them into a different service. You know, there's all sorts of different models that you can use
That's right.
when trying to
And
convert people.
yeah, and we just chose to put a price tag on something. I I learned a long time ago when I was doing webinars and things in the affiliate marketing and like internet marketing world that even if I remember charging $8 for it was like a 2 or 4 hour workshop that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Normally I gave it away for free. I remember giving it away for free. It had like over 200 attendees. The time that I charged $8 for it, I had 60 something people show up, and I converted over half of those people into a $500 plus paid program.
Wow.
What was my conversion on the 200 something people that came for free?
Nothing.
Way less than that. I had half of the eventual registrations. So I was like, well, I'm going to make money on this initial webinar.
Sure.
People are going to show up. They're going to pay attention the whole time.
Sure.
And then when they see that there's an offer, they're going to go for it. And so I saw that play out multiple times in that world. And I thought, well, let's apply it to this. Surely if somebody pays for it, there'll be a higher caliber person that is more interested. And the answer was absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So using that process, I just charged $200 for the audit. Again, it would take 2 or 3 hours to do those things. So I got some money back on my time if they didn't convert,
Right.
right? But the close rate jumped again. So went from closing like 40% of people to easily 2/3, 66, 70%, something like that.
Okay.
And I can't tell you the number of people that when I told them, yeah, it's a $200 thing, suddenly they're not interested in moving forward with it because they thought it was going to be free,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
These days, it's kind of cool when we tell somebody it's a paid audit. We already know, and they already know that there are 3 different tiered packages that they could go into.
Right.
So let them know that's what you're looking at on the other side.
Right. How does that sound to you?
How does that sound to you? Oh, well, yeah, like that's within my budget. Okay, so we're going to do this audit.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to work together to figure out which bucket is the best one for you. All of these will work, but
Right.
some will help meet your goals faster,
Correct. Okay.
right? So we cleared the deck with that. And, I was still talking to people to figure out if they were even a remote fit for what we're doing before I charged them money,
Sure.
or they come and they talk to me like somebody called us this last week and they have this whole e-commerce thing they want to do. Well, we don't do e-commerce.
Yeah, it's not efficient
It's not
with what we do.
with what we do,
It's
it's not a fit.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you know what would be a good fit for you? This person or this agency, right?
Sure.
And you find that out before you start charging money. So that worked great for a long time until we got some earth-shattering news in February. I made it dramatic because it was dramatic time for us.
Well, we had this client that we did this audit for them. We charged them $200, and she was blown away that it was $200, and she said, I would have paid a significant amount more for this information.
Yes. The number she used was $1,000.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell you what went through my head hearing that. A couple things. Number one was, how could I charge I hear you,
Yeah.
and how could I charge $1,000 for this? Because it just felt so second nature to me,
Sure.
right? Then the second thought that occurred to me after that was, what would I have to put in this audit for me to feel really good about charging $1,000?
Sure.
And so we actually went back to the drawing board and reorganized how we do these things and what goes into them.
Sure.
We souped them up quite a bit to include what is essentially the first month of their service in regards to the planning and execution of a campaign.
Sure.
We put that into the audit.
And it was also very visual. There was a presentation that went along with this, very much so that you don't have to be a professional when looking at what comes out of this audit to understand that it is going to significantly impact what you could get on the back end.
Mm-hmm. The other realization that came with those two thoughts was, this is a different type of business owner that's
Mhm.
talking to us,
Yeah.
that's playing at a different level. Because around the same time that this business owner gave us this feedback, okay, this is somebody running a multi-million-dollar business, okay? So when she looked at it, she's like, $200, I'm going to take
This
this
is
to the
nothing.
bank and this is going to be an insane return,
Right.
right? They look at the money and they look at what they can do with that. And it's like, well, this is obvious. Even if it was $1,000, this is a huge return. There's so much moving in her business
Right.
that applying just some of these small changes make a huge difference.
Sure.
I got feedback from somebody else the same week.
Yeah.
Same style of audit for their business. It was like a home remodeling business or something. This is a one-man show.
Right.
It's very much a startup business, okay? His response was so different. It was, you didn't tell me anything I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So why does everything look like this, first of all, if you're so smart?
Right.
Right. But then I realized he didn't see the value because of where he's standing.
Correct.
It's the same exact deliverable, but it was two different people.
Correct.
So in the discussion of these 4 different phases, the one thing that we didn't really point out until now is that the way we structured it caters to a different type of business owner.
Well, and we were testing it out because we knew that we wanted to appeal to a really, really great business here locally in the Albuquerque, New Mexico market. And we wanted them to see that coming out of this audit, should they elect to do an audit with us, that we could truly make an impact in their business and it would be tangible for them. They would have an ROI because of the things that we could do for them.
Mm-hmm. And because of where they're standing and what their needs are, charging money fits in alignment with the heavy lifting that they know is necessary.
Yeah.
And their mindset was like, I'm buying this and we're moving.
Yeah.
We're taking the plan and we're going to enact it with you.
Yep.
So let's roll. $1,000 is not something that most business owners will part with without thinking about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Versus the $200, I had somebody else over the last few years that I charged $200 for. And I think the reason they said yes was out of pride
Sure.
more than the reality of them wanting to go through, because they already knew the pricing on the other side. And that was like their big thing.
Right.
And so it was pride that made them say yes to $200.
Because like, really, I'm a chump if I don't pay for this.
If I don't pay for this, right?
Yeah.
But if it was $1,000, I can guarantee you I wouldn't have sat with that business owner
Right.
because that would have been too much for just pride to take the bill,
Sure.
right? So I think what we've learned over the years in adjusting our pricing and deciding what we give away for free versus what we don't, it's really a strategic decision about who it is we're wanting to attract. These
Yeah.
really high caliber people are willing to, and it makes sense for them to spend some money with an expert consultant.
Absolutely.
So we meet the perception and the expectation of this market.
Yeah.
Where we came from was a market of startups and new business people and this and that. And a lot of those people expect a lot for free.
Right. And you know, we've found our sweet spot, who we serve best in our business. And what we have now is really working for us to get those clients in our door.
Mm-hmm. What else would you say about lessons from this and, you know, what our listeners could take away based off of what we're sharing here?
I think it's just really clear, you know, do what works for you for sure. But as you get more busy and your time diminishes and you have less time, it's really important for you to consider all the things. So are you going to add a friction to your process to maybe create a buffer? Are you going to maybe charge money? Does that fit with your business process and your model? We did this because we wanted to increase profitability and decrease that time that we've wasted on people that wouldn't move forward anyway. So maybe this is something that really sounds interesting to you and you want to increase your profitability and not waste your time as much on people that really aren't going to move forward with your services.
Mm-hmm. You'd be surprised how just requiring somebody to pay a little bit of money to talk to you can make a big difference.
Yeah.
I remember with your alterations business, Rachel had at one point, you could pre-book on her website
Yep.
your fitting.
Yep.
And the fitting, she started charging for the fitting
$10.
$10, right? And before that, people wouldn't show up for the fittings and stuff. The second that she started charging for it, almost everybody showed up.
Yep, because it was non-refundable.
So it was non-refundable, and it wasn't like it was getting applied to their job.
Right.
It was in addition to.
Correct.
It became a part of how the business makes money and makes sure that people show up for their appointments.
Because it was a big deal. For me, every ticket was smaller.
Sure.
It was a smaller ticket, and it actually meant oftentimes I was doing fittings at their home. It wasn't necessarily at one location and I was already there. They were coming to me. That was the case some of the time, but not all the time. And sometimes, if they were the first one of the lot, if I had 5 in a row and it was at a specific location, I was there early and I had wasted time. I wasn't able to actually work on the garments that I did have for alterations. So there's a lot of implications to consider. What does your business look like? What is the amount of your ticket, like your average ticket price? What is that? How do you get new customers? How do you filter the ones that seem like they want your business but don't really want to do business with you? How do you do that?
What are the standards in your industry?
Yep.
Can you slay a sacred cow and change things up? We really stand out now because we don't just give it all away for free.
Right.
So the reports that people receive from us versus others, they take more seriously.
Yeah, exactly. And we're always looking to increase our profitability, but also increase what we're doing for our clients. Things change in our industry, and they probably do in yours as well. So maybe you're not charging enough for your base service, actually. Not just like how you get the client in and do you charge for the initial thing or not. It could be just simply, what do you charge for your services? Are you charging enough? Yeah. It's a big deal.
You had mentorship. I had mentorship from different places that said, look, if you're maxed out on your capacity,
yep,
it is time to raise your prices.
Right.
That's the question I want to turn over to you. If you go to babiesandbiz.com/episode number, you'll find the show notes for this episode and our community question at the bottom. Here's the question for you. Jump in the comments. We'd love to hear them. We read all of them. Do you feel scared to raise your prices? Why? You can change that question a little bit if you don't like the word scared, but everybody deals with some level of anxiety in raising their prices, and we want to know why. Maybe we can support you in some way. Your reasons are real and valid until they no longer work for you. So go over to the podcast blog, leave that comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, go to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever you're listening, and leave us that 5-star review. Encourage others to come check out the Babies in Business podcast. If you have any questions or you've got an idea for an upcoming podcast, you can also email us at hello@babiesandbiz.com and just let us know. We'd love to riff on some kind of topic that would be important to you. We're always looking for content ideas for the podcast, so we look forward to hearing from you in that manner. Thanks for listening so much. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.